But what point did it start turning dark for you?
It's when obviously when we lost our daughter, you know what I
Right.
mean? That was hard. Do you know what I mean? And I think you know me enough. I'm very level-headed,
Oh, yeah.
and do you know what I mean? And it's that is the hardest thing that can happen to anybody, and that is when if I don't care who you work for, I don't care what authority you're from, I don't care what your profession is. That's when if you're in a position at that point, you said, you know what, got to do something to help these people here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All three people in this room have helped people in their darkest hour of need. Yeah, we've all done it. Yeah, and we don't get paid for it. We do it because we're human beings, and that's what we
Mm.
do. Yeah, and you would do it for anybody. And even at my lowest point, I was still helping other people. And I don't know your personal backgrounds to that extent, but I'm sure you've been in similar positions where you thought, I don't have any fight in me anymore. But actually, these people are desperate and
Mm.
they need something. And find it amazing that kind of we do it because that's a natural thing for us. That's a natural part of being human is to help other humans in need. And yet, from the people that are employed and funded by governments to give you that kind of support, to be there for vulnerable people at the worst point in their life, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. That was the point for me. I thought, wow,
Yeah.
like
From a linear point of view, then you started asking for help. Some level of help came through, but it was, a minimal at best. You went through the obviously the absolute tragedy of losing your daughter, and also then the really upsetting process of losing one close friend and two relatives. What year would we be looking at around here, Jonathan?
and so we lost our daughter in 2023.
Yeah, so it's still very, very raw, isn't it? It's still
Yeah, yeah.
very recent. So around 2023, and I would imagine obviously you then on some level start to fight for your other children, and there's stuff that's come, you wanting to make sure that your other children are all right, and you're asking the services, presumably now is the central issue relating to the child that you've adopted that is now a family member? Is this where the central issues occurred, where you started to feel as though you were being you'd changed from someone who was the top man to being the enemy?
Well, to a certain extent, that was a very gradual process until
Yeah.
one specific moment in time. And I was fighting and fighting and fighting. I was exchanging emails. I didn't really understand the complaints process that well at that time. I didn't really understand the law very well at that time. It's yes, I work in law, but that's not my specialist area of law. Um, and it was sort of like we were hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. And it was just, there was nothing there was just nothing out there. We went vast amounts of time, particularly after we lost his daughter. We wrote and told everybody, and I think
Can you
one
give me an example
particular.
of the people you wrote to, Jonathan?
So
Who were you
we
writing
we we
to?
spoke to social workers, team managers, and service managers.
What about elected officials in the local area? Did you make any contact with elected?
No, not until a lot later.
Hmm. Yeah.
No, I did later on, but not at that point. Because we've had bad experiences in the past with that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a great deal of, particularly in Barnsley, if I'm honest. And this is just my personal opinion. I've got no real evidence to back this up, but I wouldn't really speak to an MP,
Yeah.
particularly a Labour MP, because I think my personal experience would say there is, as I've come to realise later, that the protection of reputation the protection of money would come over and above a person's needs. And
Yeah.
actually, there's a certain extent where you're talking to people and you think, all I'm doing is just giving them lots of things to kind of cover up and then come back at me with. So it's not something I chose to do that.
I think speaking from my own personal point of view as well is that with the two the two zones, if you want to call it, the two levels, not necessarily one higher than the other, but the MPs, so the members of parliament, and then obviously which is national government, and then the local government, which is obviously your local councillors. I remember writing letters. We groups. We had to send parent action groups, SPAG, we called it for a while, and we wrote to our councillor, and we got a response back from the legal team at the council. So we wrote to so we were like, well, hang on a minute, we wrote to you about the services, and then we
Yeah.
got an email back from the legal team saying that the council does everything it can for send parents, families.
Yeah,
So at
and
that point,
that's
it's
why
like
I wouldn't trust it. Yeah,
there's like 15 of us, all sort of not that your background it determines it, but we're all really sort of friendly, articulate, and not rude, never sworn at anybody, never raised his voice directly at an individual or name called. You write an articulate letter and you get a response back from legal.
yeah,
And at that point, you're like, "Ah, yeah,
yeah. It just I have no confidence in that system
yeah,
whatsoever, none. And I will say a little bit later on, there were some councillors that were very good,
yeah.
not MPs, but there were some councillors as individuals who were very, very good. Um, and do you know what I mean? I'm not sure whether I should mention them or not, but there was
Yeah,
some there was one particular Lib Dem councillor, and he was
yeah.
absolutely fantastic, really, really helpful. And that's the only positive experience I've really had with that.
And I think that is really important for me as well because I look at local areas. I mean, we have 63 councillors in local councillors, and these are not people that are what you would call, career politicians in the classic sense. They are stalwarts of your community, and they start off from a good place. I think when you have distribution of power that's not necessarily great in a borough, and people are part of a cabinet. I do think there's a lot of R&D. There's people gone independent. There's people Lib Dems. There's different parties. Labour MP. I know Labour councillors who are absolutely salt of earth. But once it gets down to nitty-gritty and decision making, it comes to a cabinet process, and at that point, then you toe the party line, and that's where it hurts because you're having sort of really human conversations with local councillors. But then when it gets to a point where it might affect the bubble, it's almost like you toe the party line and go quiet. Anyway, regardless of that, I think it's interesting to get an idea for other parents who are going to be tuning in to the nature and type of people and how you probably went up down the rabbit hole or up the scale of, you start off, don't you, at service with the person you're dealing with, then you go to the service manager, then you go to the service director, and it almost becomes like a game of King Kong, doesn't it? Where you get into that final boss. But where's the next route come from with you then? So you start registering your frustrations. We aren't going into too much detail about your child, which I think is really important. What was the what was the summation of what it is that you've ended up making a huge complaint about and going through a process with?
Well, so basically, there was a day, and I mean, you talk about dark days earlier, James. This was a dark day. Out of the blue, we are, and I'm not going to go into details as to the reasons why, and I hope you understand that. One day, bang, Section 47. And the Section 47 was ridiculous. It was ridiculous from minute one. And I just wish that I knew then what I knew now.
Jonathan,
That
James,
for
just for
me,
the purposes of the audience, okay? Because
Hmm.
what is a Section 47?
well, well,
What is it?
well, what should it be? Or
What
what
should
was
it
it?
be
Because
if we
they're
were
two
looking
very,
to a law book?
and I asked that
Yeah,
question very
well,
specifically. If
I
there
can
is
spend an hour on
suspicion,
this.
if there is a suspicion that a child is in danger and it meets a specific threshold,
Okay.
then investigations and assessments must take place in order to look at how to support the family through that or take additional action if it is needed. Okay. And do you know what? I agree with that process because in our society, we need it. We
Yeah,
need it
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
things happen. Things happen. Okay. But in our case, it was ridiculous. it didn't make sense. The things that were said didn't make sense.
I
And
think what's
actually,
real. I'm gonna step in a little bit. I'm sorry to cut you off a little bit, but I think kind of this point needs real clarification. The Section 47 process is to identify significant harm. Significant harm. I know you, and I know your family for some time ago. That your sole actions of being a foster carer, taking in the child to then become a part of your family and what you've gone through, you've done nothing but support and love them children. You know what I mean? That's clear as day. And there's many parents in Barnsley, yeah, they fight the process of going through the complaints, trying to deal with sorting education out, care out, whatever it might be. You're a caring parent. It's a caring family network. Yeah. And this is kind of where I've had to step in because it grips me slightly, this, that they're taking the Section 47, which is a genuine process to identify significant harm, and then they're flipping it on top of itself, yeah, just to come after the person who might have raised a complaint. When you've got to the end of your tether and you start challenging that situation, they come after you. They use this process to come, and we know this is happening. This is not kind of tin hat conspiracy theory. And I know they've done this with you, and I know this has made a quite a big basis on your complaints. So I think it's really, really important to stress that the Section 47, yeah, is in cases of significant harm. Yeah. And when
And
you put
also
it like
to
that,
identify that this is,
identify. Yeah.
yeah, this is to identify as well that, but for us to identify here as well, that this is not a disabled child situation.
No, no, no.
This is a across the board policy. And just reading procedures online and initiating Section 747 inquiries, just to qualify what you guys have said, and hopefully not have any idiots trying to say that you've done all untoward on this. A Section 47 inquiry under Section 47 of the Children Act 1989 is initiated to decide whether and what type of action is required to safeguard and promote the welfare of a child who is suspected to be suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm. Significant being the key thing that James
Mm,
raised.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not that we're condoning any harm, but
No, no,
it's
no, no, no,
this
no,
level
no,
of,
no, no, no.
a strategy discussion meeting should be held to decide whether to initiate inquiries under Section 47. Strategy discussions meetings should be held as soon as possible, bearing in mind the needs of the child. And
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, I could go on, but I think the key thing here is this is across the board. This is not just, but what we're seeing statistically across the country is a disproportionate amount of send children families being
yeah,
put through the Section
yeah, yeah, yeah,
47
yeah,
process.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's an abuse of a process as well, which is becoming quite clear.
And one
I
of
think
one of the
your case,
key
Jonathan's case, in its very core roots identifies that.
Yeah, and what we're noticing as well, and we have noticed a real upward trend of across the country is what used to be referred to as munchins by proxy, but is more favorably referred to now as FII, fabricated induced illness. And that is when parents are saying there's something wrong with our Johnny and we can't get their assessment, we can't get the
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
what
yeah,
happens
yeah,
is if you become, in their eyes, vexatious, which is constant and deemed to be aggressive by some no mark who just don't like the fact that they've been spoken to in a certain
yeah,
way,
yeah, 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 yeah.
when they're making terrible accusations against you, then it initiates the fact that you are trying to push the system to follow what you believe, and it's not actually there.
Yeah,
Worryingly
yeah,
enough,
yeah, 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 yeah.
parents then
Well,
go,
yeah.
"Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously,
definitely."
if somebody is there sat there genuinely harassing staff and intimidating staff and being aggressive and being abusive, yeah, that risk of significant harm is heightened. But
Yeah.
this is not the case. You know what I mean? This is not the case. This is not what's. You know, I've never met one parent I've been supporting and strike me down dead who has, you know what I mean, threatened, intimidated, or screamed and shouted it. It takes all of their emotional strength to actually pick the telephone up and complain. You're talking about people who have probably faced trauma in the system themselves at some point, whether that's at school or whatever it might be. And to make that first initial formal complaint is terrifying for them.
And
You know what I mean?
not denying or disputing as well the fact that where neurodiversity is concerned, is often genetic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, I agree
one
with
or
that. Yeah,
two of the
yeah,
parents may or may not,
yeah.
I'm not making massive generalizations, feel 100% comfortable becoming the person they have to become to defend the
Mm,
rights of their parent. So just to qualify, thanks for that with the 47. So what happened is that basically a local authority turned around and says, this is no longer about necessarily directly helping you as a parent. This is us being more concerned about the child's welfare than the whole family's welfare, which is
yeah,
in layman's term what a Section 17 is. I'm
yeah.
paraphrasing it. 47 then starts to target the parents in no uncertain terms. Let's look at the parents in more depth and we're raising
Yeah.
questions about their capacity, yeah, to parent.
Which
And
which is the yeah.
that's
Which is
what
the
we're going.
scary which is the scary thing again, because that is not what it's there for. It's to
No,
identify.
no.
So the fact that the go-to and it is the immediate go-to is the immediate go-to is going straight to the parent, or should I say straight to the person who in Jonathan's case was raising, is that fair to say, Jonathan? Raising
Oh, you came after me,
complaints?
yeah. You came after
Yeah.
me, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
when
that's
you
targeted. That's
yeah,
targeted. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I will throw in there because I want to, and I truly believe it, and I will provide more and more evidence. But I think there's a real issue with active send dads in this borough. I really do.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
huge issue where with gender, and when a send father is very active, they
Yeah.
naturally presume the worst, or they
Yeah.
find that they want to move in a direction that questions who you are
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah, and I'm going to buck the trend a little bit here, and I don't normally do this, and you both know me very well. Is I won't speak about anything unless you know what I mean. And I don't feel this is an opinion now from myself, the amount of information I've been shared, but I do believe they are using the Section 47 process to target individuals to shut them up.